Aaron DORR is the political director for the Missouri Firearms Coalition. That was his audio that we opened the show with, and he joins us now via Skype. Aaron, good to see you. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for the time, Dana.
Of course. So I got to get your response to this, because now you had a lot of pushback, you and a lot of grassroots folks in Missouri, a lot of pushback on the criticism there of the Second Amendment Preservation Act. So I'll start there, because he was saying some things that don't exactly line up to how the law reads. And you said they were outright false and that they were Democrat talking points. And I wanted to get some of your thoughts on that. Let's start with what he had said about SAPA. Tell us about that and then your response.
Yeah, as we said in our initial videos on this, everything he said was absolutely false. He said that cops can be prosecuted via SAPA. That's not the case. That local authorities can't get help from federal agencies in investigating Missouri crimes. That's not the case. That it's going to be harmful to defunding the police. No cops are defunded by SAPA. They're simply diverted. We want Missouri cops to enforce Missouri gun laws. If Missouri wanted to have federal tyrannical gun control laws, we'd pass them in Jeff City. We don't want that garbage. We want our cops to enforce our laws, not federal laws. That's what SAPA does. He was wrong on all of that.
And my thought too, when I was reading the law, it reminded me of sort of a reinforcement of the commandeering clause, for the 10th Amendment, and how you can't have and use state resources to carry out and implement federal policies or federal requirements. I mean, there's case precedent on that, and it seemed to me it was a reinforcement of that.
That's the whole foundation for this bill, is the anti-commandeering doctrine. And as you said, for hundreds of years, the Supreme Court, leftist justices and conservative have always said that when the state and federal laws disagree, the feds cannot force the states to enforce federal laws they disagree with. And so we're simply saying that with SAPA, we don't like Joe Biden's gun control tyranny, whether it's legislative or executive orders. And here in Missouri, we want our cops to enforce our laws. Apparently, Eric Greitens does not agree with that.
Yeah, the claims that he made about it, and I went and I read the law, and then I went and read the law again, and then I listened to his interview again, and I'm like, where is he getting this from? Because he says things that, and you're right, I went and I was looking at some of the criticisms of SAPA, and it's exactly what the anti-gun lobbyists have been arguing. So why is he repeating that? He's supposed to be a conservative 2A candidate.
There's a lot of people asking that very question this week right now in Missouri. What is the deal here? Of course, our members were not shocked by this. This is not the first time that Eric has been unhelpful, to say the least, towards gun rights. When he first ran for office in 2016, we had just passed constitutional carry at that time in Jeff City. Then Governor Nixon vetoed that. We were in that veto override ramp-up time, and Eric refused to support constitutional carry when all the rest of the candidates in that primary did. And then days before he became the governor, he changed the rules and said we could no longer carry in our state capital, where we had carried for over 100 years through multiple world wars. But all of a sudden, under Greitens' tenure, it was against the rules to carry in our own state capital. And then when he was governor, we had nothing from him. We had no help, no pushing legislation, nothing to help advance our gun rights in Jeff City. So we've had a long history of this with Eric Greitens. For gun owners, this is the biggest snafu he's had so far, but it's not the first time he's attacked our gun rights.
Wow. We're talking with Aaron DORR, who is the political director for the Missouri Firearms Coalition, a huge group of grassroots gun owners and 2A supporters in the state of Missouri, talking about this U.S. Senate race for Roy Blunt's old seat. And Eric Greitens, who was against the Second Amendment Preservation Act, which was, as Aaron we were just talking about, that's, it's an anti-commandeering clause. And that's been cited in so many of these cases to fight back against federal gun control. I wanted to get your response to Greitens saying that he had tweeted, he tweeted this just the other day, I 100% support the Second Amendment Preservation Act, because now it's apparently different now from the audio that we just played earlier. And then he said this, and I think he's talking about you, Aaron. He says, quote, "Do-nothing establishment rhinos and lobbyists will never truly stand up for the Second Amendment to protect your rights. Don't be fooled." So are you rhino? I'm trying to figure this out.
I think he means that myself and our bill sponsors, Representative Jared Taylor and Senators Eric Burleson, are the rhinos in Jeff City. The reality is that our organization's members have unseated many anti-gun Republicans. We love rhino hunting.
And I got to ask
you,
this is a guy who, correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, was he not a Democrat up until 2016?
Absolutely, because for your audiences, just don't forget, in Eric Greitens' world, everybody is a rhino except for Eric Greitens. And so when it comes to the guys who pass SAPA, I mentioned these guys, champions for freedom in Jeff City. Senator Burleson helped us pass constitutional carry, stand your ground, lifetime carry permits, expanded castle doctrine, and SAPA. That's the rhino that Eric Greitens is talking about. The guy was 100% opposed to SAPA last week, Tuesday, and on Saturday, he's 110%, he says, in support of SAPA. We all know what's going on. He's made a dumpster fire out of his campaign. You don't attack gun rights in Missouri ever, and you don't do it for sure in the midst of a Republican Party primary.
Yeah.
And he did it. He had stupid consultants that told him to do it, and he's paying the price. So Tuesday, he's against it. Saturday, he's for it. Not a big surprise, frankly, coming out of Eric Greitens' mouth.
And we've had Burleson on the program talking about when he was expanding some of this stuff. And I mean, I just find it fascinating for anyone to call Burleson or any of these other bill sponsors rhinos. These guys are hardcore Second Amendment supporters that have been Second Amendment supporters for longer than Greitens has been a Republican, actually, which I think is interesting. We're talking with Aaron DORR, Missouri Firearms Coalition. I want to go back because you brought up something very interesting. You said that gun owners in Missouri and people who are with the Missouri Firearms Coalition, this is not surprising to them because he had refused to support previously constitutional carry. Tell us a little bit more about this because that's a huge issue for folks.
Yeah, well, back in 2016, it wasn't quite as popular as it is today. We were still kind of one of the earlier states to make this a reality. And so we had it passed through the legislature, and we had a Democrat governor at that time, Jay Nixon, who vetoed the bill. Not a big surprise. And in that ramp up between the end of May and the middle of September, when the override session takes place, every political figure in the state who wanted to run for office or was engaged in a campaign was very much in support of the override of this veto. All the other gubernatorial candidates, if memory serves, were publicly urging the legislature to override Jay Nixon's veto, and they all surveyed with us 100%. Eric Greitens would never survey, and Eric Greitens would never lift a finger to help us pass this monumental expansion of freedom. So we needed him in 2016. He did nothing to help advance constitutional carry. We needed him when he was the governor to help us get rid of deadly gun-free zones. He refused to lift a finger in that case. And then while he was at it, he made it against the rules for us to carry in our own state capital. So this guy has a history of, it's not the first time, right? For our members, we're pretty used to candidates on both sides of the line using guns as campaign fodder. But, Joe Biden said buy a shotgun too, and Obama had photographs of him out hunting. So seeing tough guy videos shooting a machine gun, that doesn't tell us where you actually stand when it comes to our freedoms. And so for our members, all the machine gun shoot videos in the world are not going to make up for the fact that he has betrayed us every time we needed him. And now with this madman in the White House, now that we actually passed the best SAPA law in the country, he stabs us in the back. We're not going to forget it.
Yeah, you can't, and that's a great point as well, because people don't realize unless you're a firearm owner, you hunt. I mean, you can't fool people in the 2A community. They know whether it's a lifestyle or not. They know whether you're putting on or not. You can't have a PR crafting message on it, because people can see it really quickly. This last question for you. I mean, so he says he supports it. I would imagine, because I've seen a lot of feedback already from people who had, they're undecided in the primary race. I know it's a kind of a crazy primary. I always get nervous about what Democrats are going to do, but it does bring up the question, if you have someone who can't even be depended upon to support constitutional carry or to even be straight, when our eyes and ears, we trust those more than we do politicians when they say that they don't support Second Amendment Preservation Act and then they come back and say that they support it. How would somebody like that in the Senate, with everything being so close, if you got a red flag law, because those things are still in committee, there's a lot of other stuff that's still going to be brought through. Can you even, when the heat is on, can you count on somebody like that?
Well, the Missouri Firearms Coalition members it's not your granddaddy's gun rights organization. Right. We don't trust anybody based on party affiliation or what they say. We only trust what have you done, and what have you done when it comes to the fight for freedom. We are well aware of a large number of Republican senators in office today who have professed support in the last 2 years for red flag gun seizures, and some of them for universal background checks. So the idea that we're going to just give somebody our blessing as gun owners because you have a machine gun shoot video, that might have worked 10 years ago. Those days are gone. All we care about right now is what will you actually do? What President Trump, I think, showed to gun owners is that there's a lot of swamp monsters who are in the Republican camp, as well as there are anti-gun leftists. All of them are working either publicly or behind the scenes against our freedoms. For us as gun owners, we're trying to get pro-gun champions in office, not just a person to warm a seat.
Yeah, there you go. That's a great point. Aaron DORR with the Missouri Firearms Coalition. Appreciate your advocacy on this and your voice and making sure everybody's aware of this. Thanks so much for joining us today. Keep in touch.
Thank you,
for
Dana.
Sure. Of course.
Have a good day.
You too.